The dying can still hear you. Long after someone stops speaking, stops opening their eyes, stops responding in any way at all, long after we've assumed they're already gone, some part of them is still listening. Hearing is the last sense to leave, and there's now hard evidence for it. A dying brain keeps catching sound when every other door has closed, which means the goodbye you were afraid you missed may still be reaching them, right up until the very end. For as long as people have sat beside the dying, those who work in hospice care have passed down a quiet piece of wisdom. As the body begins to shut down, the senses don't all switch off at once. They fade in a kind of order. Appetite goes first. They stop wanting food and water. Then speech becomes difficult, then impossible. Vision dims and fades. And one by one, the doors to the outside world close. But the last door, the one that stays open the longest, is hearing. For generations, this was something nurses simply knew from being in the room. It was compassionate folklore. And then recently, science finally went looking to see if it was true. In 2020, a team of researchers at the University of British Columbia did something few people had ever attempted. They studied the brains of dying people in real time in their final hours. Working in a hospice, with the permission of patients and families, they placed EEG sensors on the heads of people who were actively dying, many of them unresponsive, no longer reacting to the world in any visible way. Then they played sequences of tones and measured how the brain responded. They compared those readings to healthy young people and to the same patients from days earlier when they were still conscious. And what they found was quietly astonishing. Even in their final hours, even when they could no longer move or speak or show any sign of awareness, the brains of these dying patients were still responding to sound. The patterns looked remarkably similar to those of the healthy, conscious listeners. The hearing was still working, the signal was still getting through. It was some of the first hard, physical evidence for something those at the bedside had believed all along. Now, why would hearing, of all things, be the sense that holds on the longest? Part of the answer is that hearing is beautifully passive. To see, you have to open your eyes. To taste or touch, you have to actively engage with the world. But to hear, you don't have to do anything at all. Sound simply arrives, and the ancient machinery of the ear and brainstem processes it automatically, effortlessly, without any conscious effort required. It's one of the oldest and most robust systems we have, wired deep into the primitive core of the brain. So as the higher functions flicker and fade, this quiet automatic sense keeps running in the background, like the last light left on in a house as everything else goes dark. And this isn't only about brain scans. Ask anyone who has spent real time with the dying, and they will tell you stories that science is only now catching up to. Hospice nurses describe unresponsive patients whose breathing suddenly calms when a familiar voice enters the room. A slowing heart rate, a single tear sliding down the cheek of someone who hasn't moved in hours, the moment a loved one says goodbye. People who have survived comas sometimes wake and describe, in accurate detail, conversations that happened around their bed while everyone assumed they were gone. And there is the strange, well-documented pattern of dying people who seem to hold on, refusing to let go until a specific person arrives to say goodbye, or who slip away in the brief moment an exhausted family member finally steps out of the room. On some level, they are still there, still listening, still aware of who is near. And here's the part almost nobody prepares you for. We tend to imagine death as a wall that slams down all at once, a single moment where the person is simply gone and the chance to reach them is over. But that isn't how it seems to work. The senses close slowly, like doors shutting one at a time down a long hallway, and hearing holds the final door open, sometimes long after we've assumed the person has already left. which means the window to reach someone you love does not close when they stop responding. It stays open quietly right up until the very end. Now, science urges honesty here. A brain responding to sound is not the same as proof of rich, conscious understanding. We cannot climb inside those final moments and know exactly what a dying person experiences or how much they truly comprehend. But here is what we do know. The cost of assuming they can hear you is nothing, and the cost of assuming they can't could be everything. If there is even a chance that your voice is reaching them, then the only humane thing, the only loving thing, is to speak as if it is. It also means something harder to hear. Be careful what is said near them. The offhand comment, the argument out in the hallway, the words spoken as though they were already gone, assume gently that those may land too. The room around a dying person is never as empty as it looks. So if you are ever in that room, and the person you love can no longer answer you, do not fall silent. Do not save your words for a conversation that may never come. Tell them what they meant to you. Tell them you forgive them, or ask them to forgive you. Play the song they loved. Tell them it's okay to let go, that they are safe, that they are not alone. You do not need the perfect words. You only need your voice. Because the science suggests that somewhere in that quiet, fading mind, your voice is still arriving, the last thread connecting them to a world they are leaving. Hearing is the first sense many of us develop in the womb, tuned to the muffled sound of our mother's voice long before we are born. And it may well be the last thing to leave us as we go, which means, for so many people, the final experience of an entire human life is not darkness or silence or fear. It is the sound of someone who loves them saying the thing they most needed to hear. Make sure while you still can that you are the one who says it. Thanks for watching the Unspoken channel. If you enjoyed this content, feel free to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Until next time.